this pencil down, pick up your shading pencil, your really dark lead. This does not have to be very sharp. In fact, the less sharp it is, the easier it is to shade with it. Let's go back to the cube. The cube has 3 sides that we can see. The very darkest value side, a medium, and then a light side. So we're gonna start by adding this shadow for the dark side. Pick either one of your cubes, it doesn't matter which one. Start with one side and start to shade this side in, going back and forth, covering the whole side with your shading pencil. Notice how the shading pencil is very dark. As you start to add the color, it's gonna get very dark like a shadow. Now notice I have some little white spots there too. I can go back in and shade those, or I can take my finger and just smooth it a little bit, because a shading pencil has very different lead. It's very easy to smooth it out and blend it. So I'm just gonna smooth it a little bit. It kind of went off my form though, so I'm just gonna take my eraser and clean up the sides like that. Okay, so once I cover in the whole area with the dark shadow, then I'm gonna go on to the medium side. This time, I'm not gonna press as hard as I did with the shadow. I'm gonna press kind of in the middle. So I'm gonna shade this not as dark as the shadow, just kind of medium. So I'm gonna go once and then go back and overlap another time to make it a little darker. Not as dark as the shadow though. Notice when I'm shading, I'm not using the tip of my brush up and down, I'm using the side of it. So I'm just going like this, using the side, not up and down like I normally use my pencil, just shading with the side. That makes a nice thick line, not a thin line like this. That's not good shading. I want a nice, thick, smooth line. So notice how I'm holding it. I'm holding it like this, pressing like this. Okay, back and forth one more time to make that medium one. Okay, I should be able to match the picture pretty well. Not exactly, but pretty well. If I went off my form, I can just erase a little bit. Okay, now for the lightest side, I'm not gonna press very hard at all. I'm just gonna very lightly hold my pencil, and I'm barely even tickling my page. I'm just pressing very lightly to get a little bit of color on there, not a lot. Okay, because we are imagining that the sun is coming, or the light is coming and hitting the top. So it's making a bright spot here and a shadow over here on this side. So this is the brightest spot. Okay, so let's start shading our cube now. Okay, when we're ready to move on to the sphere has a dark, a medium, and a light spot too. What I like to do is I just like to break it up into 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. Dark, medium, light. Starting with the dark spot, holding my pencil on the side again, just shade this whole area dark. Now I need to go back over this a few times so it matches this darkness over there. I want it to be pretty dark. It's kind of hard for me to stay inside of the sphere, and it might be hard for you to stay inside of the sphere too when you're shading like this, but that's okay. You can just take your pencil and erase this side. Now moving on to this area, I'm gonna shade kind of medium, not pressing as hard as the shadow spot, kind of in the middle. So overlapping a couple times to make this a little darker. I can even go back into this area and blend this a little bit more with my finger so that it's smooth from dark to medium to light. Okay, and then the light spot, barely even touching that spot. Barely even touching that spot. And then go back in and shade this a little bit more. I think I need to make this a little bit darker, so I'm gonna go back in there too. Really dark shadow there. And then blend it with my finger. Okay, and erase on the side if I went off my sphere. Okay, let's start shading the sphere now. Okay, now moving into the cylinder. The cylinder has a top that's very bright because the light's hitting it. It's not very light at all. Then it has a dark spot here, a medium spot here, a very bright highlight spot here, and then another medium spot. So it has kind of like 4 spaces. So I'm gonna start with the darkest spot here, the shadow. just shade. I can shade up and down or left to right, whatever is easiest for me. Okay, once I've shaded that whole space there, then I'm gonna move into the medium side here, not pressing as hard, pressing kind of in the middle. Okay, I can blend these two together again. All right, now this spot, I'm not gonna press very hard at all. Almost like I'm tickling the paper, I'm not even touching that spot. And then I'm moving back into a medium one. Then this medium one matches this medium one, okay? I can even put a tiny little shadow over here too to make it look like it has shadows on both sides. Blend it out a little bit. Okay, the top is very light, so I'm just gonna press very lightly on the top. It should match this spot right there. If you ever feel like you've gotten too much pencil lead in the light spot, you can just take your pencil and go back in and erase that so it looks like it's very bright highlight, like the light is hitting it.